Welcome to another episode of Sneaks Rounds in Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So I have a special guest on today. We tried to get this done last week while we were in the lovely city of Atlanta. Things did not work out, but here we are. We had to get it done. It's Women's History Month. We just had Women's History Day on Saturday, but Jessie Matkovich, welcome to the pod. How are you, my friend?
Thank you. I am well. Very excited to be here. Can't lie, a little nervous. My first podcast, but I appreciate the invite and excited to sit down with you.
All right, so no pressure here. We're just gonna shoot the shit. We're gonna talk some sneakers. We're gonna talk a little bit about basketball, but so you and I have connected through work, but that we've also kind of connected through our love of sneakers. So where did your sneaker passion start?
That's a really great question, and it connects both of them. When I look back at where sneakers started for me, it was with basketball. Thinking back to when basketball got serious for me, it was like maybe fifth grade. We're talking about like the 1996 era, like the Bulls. And I was just obsessed with Michael Jordan and the marketing of if you wear his sneakers, you're gonna play like Mike. Like I was sold. So the combination of basketball and sneakers and just the entire culture started there. I think you can't have one without the other.
Okay, so you mentioned Jordan, a few times there, and the marketing. I think the marketing got all of us. I think it was be like Mike, and if you put on a pair of Jordan 12s or a Jordan 11s or Jordan 13s, you were gonna fly through the air and score at will and defend your person like there's no one's business. So that's how they got us, and they haven't really created much like that. Hey, I think the Anthony Edward ads are probably the closest thing we've seen in recent memory. I do remember the penny ads being probably top tier in terms of integrating social pieces, because they had Tyra Banks in it, there was parties, we had all these celebrities in it, but outside that there's really nothing been like what we saw. Hey, Vince Carter was cool with the shocks, but Anthony Edwards has kind of brought the era of marketing back to the world of basketball. So you mentioned Jordan and Nike. What would you say is why have you gravitated to that brand specifically? Now, I do know you're an Anthony Edwards fan, but what has you gravitating to the Jordan/Nike brand?
I think we just go back to again, the marketing got me at a young age. There wasn't much else out there. I mean, Nike was just this elite brand. The best players. I mean, Cheryl Swoops was in it. You mentioned Vince Carter, Michael Jordan. If you were a somebody, your favorite Dion. I mean, anybody who was anybody back in that day was with Nike. So I just vividly remember the commercials, the Penny Hardaway commercials, all of that. Just like I knew if I was going to be the greatest, I was going to do it wearing Nike. So I think it was just where it was birthed. Um, and it's just been that red thread, I guess, through my entire career. However, dabbled in Adidas had its glory days with in I think my late high school years, like 2003, with the pro model and the team colors and stuff there. But I always just found my way back to Nike, and then I know there's just no other contender when it comes to the Jordan line of sneakers. I think you could go on with any debate anywhere, but I laugh now at the comments of the Yeezy jumped over the jump man, and now we've arrived back here again, and was that even an era? But yeah, it just goes back to that the the marketing of excellence, man. I bought in, I drank the Kool-Aid, hook, line, and sinker. That was the ticket to being the greatest.
So you didn't mention just the pro model. So you must have been a hooper in high school. What was hooping like in your high school days?
I love that question. Yes, pro models. I was joking. I said you weren't a true hooper in the late '90s, early 2000s if you didn't have team pro models in multiple colors. But what was hooping like growing up? So a little bit about where I came from is I like to call it Canada. To most of America, they consider me Canadian. As I grew up in like the highest little point of Minnesota that there is. So most people don't even know about the Iron Range or northern Minnesota. It's known as Hockeytown, USA. We're home of the Hockey Hall of Fame, and everybody grew out on outdoor rinks, and hockey was just the number one attraction. So basketball kind of was the black sheep sport where I grew up, so it didn't get a lot of attention, but and very small. So it was fundamental basketball. It was lots of time spent in the gym. There wasn't much else to do. But it was life for me. When I say turning that corner into ninth grade, I don't think that there was a minute of summer vacation that we weren't playing on a court somewhere or traveling somewhere in Minnesota to find somebody that would play us. Um, but yeah, I came from up there in the middle of nowhere, super small school, and I would definitely say that basketball opened up the rest of the United States to me, and opened doors that got me out of that little small town up there. But very traditional, lots of pride, and very fundamental basketball.
Oh, so lots of cuts, lots of back screens, lots of pass the ball and cut and go the other way to set a screen for somebody else, and they're gonna peel off that one. That's awesome.
Oh,
I don't even know if I knew
absolutely.
that part of your history. The basketball was so tough. So hey, let's take this back to sneakers then. How did you find shoes? Like I think that's the question that I have as a sneakerhead. If you lived borderline in Canada, in the top of Minnesota, the northern tip, how did you find sneakers? What was available? Like
Uh,
was going to your average Foot Locker a really tough experience because they just didn't have a lot?
Yeah, what was Foot Locker is a better question. So we did have one growing up. There was one Foot Locker in town. I think it closed when I was in ninth grade. So then the closest Champs or Foot Locker we had was about an hour, hour and a half away from us. But where I found sneakers was interesting, and I know you'll smile with this, but the East Bay magazine. I think
Literally, the in
any
the world of sneakers in the '90s, it was the greatest thing ever. It was
it
like
was
a
the holy grail.
catalog
Like,
that you prayed and wished and it came, and then you would just see a plethora of things that you've never seen or dreamed about. It was like Christmas
yeah,
when it
because it
showed
was
up.
no internet. I mean, I don't want to date us, but that was pre-internet. Like you couldn't go on
Yes.
social media and see what the hottest thing was. You got those couple commercials on TV, but man, that East Bay magazine came out, and I felt connected to the rest of the world. So it definitely started with East Bay. Interesting enough, I think I have a different story. I know a lot of kids grew up in sneakers because mom and dad bought them the newest retro, or they saw people in their community with the hottest sneakers on. And that was definitely not where I came from. You walk out my door and you saw people in hockey skates and sorrel boots and Timberlands and things of that nature. So fashion sneakers and basketball sneakers weren't in the community. So I saw them on TV. I saw them in commercials. I saw them in that East Bay magazine that, like you said, religiously I waited for that thing to hit the mailbox. And I would bring it to school, and every break we had, I was going page by page and memorizing how much every shoe weighed and
Oh,
circling
you
on
were
every
one of them
page what my
ones. We looked at how
oh
much a shoe
I
weighed, which was the lightest, and I
yeah
would consider that, but I would just try to avoid whichever one was the heaviest. Like I
oh
can't jump for a
absolutely.
lick to start with, so I can't wear the heaviest shoe, even though like up tempos and some of those are some of my favorite ones.
Yeah, there were some tanks. But yeah, that kind of stuff mattered back then. You know what I mean? It was all about the latest technology and who can make the lightest shoe and what was out. So it definitely started there. And then when I got to college, and I started making a little bit of my own money, and I that's kind of where the madness started. I was closer to sneaker stores, and I had some disposable, I shouldn't say disposable money, it was my grocery money, but that's where the purchases started getting a little bit crazy, and the collection started to build.
Got it. So you mentioned Minnesota. For those that know, well, I know Jessie pretty well. She lives in Tennessee, so not that there's a ton of snow right now, but you've been kind of all over the place. You're helping out at All Star, or actually you were at the Super Bowl. So like in this season, like you kind of have to be somewhat selective of what you put on because you can't put on those suede shoes because it's going to rain or it's going to be wet snow. So what does the winter rotation look like for Jessie?
I'm going to make a lot of people mad here, I think, because there's nothing off limits to me. I'm a huge advocate of wearing your sneakers, and sneakers are made to be worn. So, yes, weather's always been a factor, but it hasn't really deterred any of my decisions on a day-to-day basis. I'm big on wearing sneakers for moods. And I don't think, in most cases, I'm not letting the weather affect, you know what I mean, what I'm feeling to put on my feet for the day. Even back in Minnesota, I think of myself tromping through the snow on my way to class in college and stuff, and I wore everything. Now, big advocate of shoe care,
Hmm.
and I might have went through a can of protector on a daily basis. um, but I'm a sneaker wearer, man. Rain, snow, sleet, shine. I'm gonna wear what makes me feel good, and it's usually the sneaker I bought last week.
Okay.
Yeah. So just a steady rotation. Consistently. And I'll even say that since I'm 2 years into being a dog owner now, and that has drastically changed what my sneakers look like, because I'll put on just about anything to go out there and walk the dog. So uh, some sneakers are definitely using some extra cleaner
Yeah.
and a little bit more TLC, but no sneaker goes unworn in my
Yeah,
household.
between a dog and on my side, between a dog and a 9 year old, which one at one point was a 4 or 5 year old and would step on your shoes for fun. Um, Sometimes I have to be selective, but no, I like to just wear whatever. The only ones that I really think about are the ones that are all suede. Like if I feel I'm in a mood and I want to wear, I'll make it up, Jordan 21, all red or all gray or um Raging Bull 5, like I have to kind of pick my spot. Like it's either got to be crazy freezing and like there's not going to be a lick of moisture, or it's like 30 degrees and it ain't going to rain. Like that's probably the only one. But much like you, I wear my shoes. Now, some shoes that I really like that I know that has a chance to get dirty, I probably have more than one. Air
Yeah,
Max 95 is an
that's the
example.
way to
Like
go.
I cried when my daughter stepped on her with muddy boots on in the schoolyard about 3 years ago. But then it's like, well, I have another one. It's okay. Like I try to get this one clean, and it's 8.5 out of 10. But I know I have another one, and it's coming out again this year. So maybe if worse comes to worse, I'll consider buying another. But I have two, so I'm probably pretty good, and I don't need to. But I just like to wear my
That
shoes. I think much like you, I've been an advocate. Why hold on to you? Like you can't take it to you when you leave this earth. You might as well just wear them.
Yeah, a story for you there is I learned my lesson on the Concord 11s. They were one of like my grails. Like I was so proud to have them the first time around, and I kept them in the box for I think 2 years. Didn't wear them. Like, oh, these are going to be such a special occasion shoe. I can't wait. I broke them out on New Year's Eve one year, and wasn't out the house maybe 5 minutes, and I caught the toe of them on the clutch pedal of my car. And I scraped the patent leather to the point of, you know what I mean? It
It
was
was
done for.
dog.
So yeah, I mean, you couldn't buff it out. It was scratched pretty significantly. So 2 years in the box, wore them for 5 minutes. They were destroyed. Mind you, that New Year's Eve, I turned myself right back around, walked in the house, and ruined my whole night. I didn't, you know what I mean?
You didn't just kick
So
them off
from
and
that
put
day
something else
on,
on?
no, I stayed home. I was
What?
upset.
You gotta be
Yeah,
kidding
so
me.
yeah, I learned my lesson there. I've never looked back since. I said there's never a more special moment than today. So, regardless of what happens to that sneaker, whether I get it for 5 minutes or I get 20 wears out of it, it's time to unbox it and get it on the street. So
Yep.
never again,
Oh
never
wow.
again putting stuff on ice.
Should have driven there and then put it on. So like I am like people know me as like I'm like the bag man. They call me the bag man. The reason why,
So
because I have like another outfit and then I have like another two pairs of shoes. I play basketball. I show up with our work bag with four pairs of Kobe's in there, and I just go, mood, this. And this is what it was like. And then I go 0 for 3 from the floor. And before halftime, I'm already in another pair. And it's like, what happened to the first pair? And it's like, did you not see that I missed the first three
exactly.
shots? I can change shoes. You brought one, I brought four. So I'm going to figure this out until I start scoring or I start defending my person. So it is what shoes are meant to be worn. So it's like why they call me the bagman because I probably have a shoe for every occasion and sometimes every quarter of a game. But you just got to wear them. You only have 24 hours and you got to sleep probably for 8. That's what they recommend. So sometimes you got to wear more than one shoe in a day. I wore at least 3 today. One to put the garbage out,
Absolutely.
one to get to the store. When I got in the store, I wore this shoe and I kept looking at myself like, I look good today because I have this shoe on. And then when it was time to leave, I took it off
Man,
and wore the other one on the way to the car.
man, shoes are totally a vibe, and I agree. They definitely bring me
Yep.
happiness.
Yep. No two ways about
That
it.
that feeling of catching a look at yourself in the mirror, and you're like, ooh,
Yeah. Oh, I walked by a couple customers and then, on my way to the stock room, I looked and I double take and it's like, this is a good outfit today. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely shoes bring us joy and they are a lot of fun. So hey, let's reflect really quick on, we're already in 2025. It's March, it's Women's History Month. But what were your favorite shoes that you bought last year? Are there a couple that really stand out to you? If you want to give us 5, sure, but give us as many as you want, the ones that kind of really ones that you truly will remember that you got from last year.
What I remember of 2024 was the excitement around basketball sneakers again. Like as you mentioned earlier, the AE commercials and whatnot. So I bought so many hoop shoes in 2024. Like multiple colors of the AE, hands down my favorite sneaker of 2024. I voted it the sneaker of 2024, and I was on the campaign trail heavy there. Um, but also a ton of Sabrinas. The Sabrina 2 was great. Still, I think I'm going to go with the vote on the Sabrina 1 over the 2.
Really?
Might be
Whoa,
an
whoa, whoa, whoa,
unpopular.
whoa.
Yeah, I
Really?
think
No,
I
I
think
would
that
tell
was
you
going to
it's
be an
the
unpopular
opposite.
opinion.
Comfort wise, I would tell you
Yeah,
Sabrina. I like the look of 1. Fit of 2 is better than 1. So I'm hoping 3 lands in the middle between the two of them.
yeah, definitely. And I think you're along the lines of a lot of what I've heard from other sneakerheads is they love the fit of the 2. And I knew the 2 was going to be probably more well liked from a fit, but the snug, tight lockdown of the Sabrina 1 is exactly the feeling I like when I hoop. So that sneaker, the Sabrina 1 really spoke to me from a fit and feel. So I bought a ton of that. I also bought quite a few Devin Bookers.
Hmm.
I know that sneaker didn't get a lot of love from the community either, but I loved the versatility of the Booker. I love that it looked like an Air Force One, but had the fit and the feel of like, hey, I could go do something on the court with these. So really big into that. Yeah, so I don't know if I could rate the top 5 purchases of 2024, but I went crazy from a basketball perspective. I think I even bought some Stewies. Definitely a couple of mellow balls. Yeah, it was just the year of the basketball sneaker, and I couldn't be more
Yeah.
excited. I feel like basketball sneakers have been
Yep.
rejuvenated,
A
and
hooper at
we
heart
took
would
a few
definitely
years
love
off.
last year.
Yeah, yeah. I miss the years of the KD, LeBron, Kobe, and we had, you know what I mean, the Christmas releases and all that excitement. So excited to see where this goes, and not to be opening another can here, but the Sabrina, man, and how it's made its way into the NBA is more than exciting to me.
Yeah, Sabrina's a top 3 shoe. Like I think it's
Man,
Kobe, and then Sabrina, and then I think it might be KD 17 is the third shoe before we even get to any Jordans. And I think that was an interesting take of what you just shared. You said AE, you said Sabrina, you said Booker, you even talked about Mellow Ball. You didn't mention Jordan at all. So what was it about what happened with Jordan Brand that really didn't appeal to you last year?
um, you know, nothing exciting came out to me from a, and I hate to say that from a Jordan Brand standpoint. Um, I'm a I'm an OG type of person. The sneakers got to have, when it comes to Jordan, the sneakers got to have some type of story,
Okay.
or you know what I mean, it has to tie back to Mike's career. So the past few years when Jordan Brand has been getting kind of crazy with the extra colorways and dropping a sneaker every single week, it I kind of lost interest a little bit. I don't necessarily think they did anything wrong. I think I just as had something to be excited about again.
Okay.
You know, I've kind of picked up most of the Jordans I need to have that are like grails or whatever they might be. So Jordan Brand would have to come with something, you know what I mean, a little bit different, or um, yeah, I'm not, back to the basics again for
Hmm.
Jordan. I don't really know what the answer is. I kind of like the way it's looking right now. They've pulled back a little bit and not, you know what I mean, oversaturated with so many drops so fast, and kind of gotten back to OG colorways again. So they're starting to speak my language.
Hmm.
But again, not to age myself, but it's hard to buy the same sneaker over and over and over again.
Yeah, if you're an
Um,
OG, it can be done if you don't have. But hey, like I remember saying on an earlier podcast this year, it's like to start the year, I'm good. Like I don't even blink. I'm excited to see other people buy shoes because whether it's metallic fives, or it was black toe ones,
Blue Jam,
or band Jordan ones, which was super hard to get, but I had the 2016 one. And then we got flu games, and people got so excited and were ready to kill each other for it because they almost killed each other for black cats and metallic fives. And I have it, 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 and
have
just
it,
wearing
have
them. It's
it,
like,
haven't
great,
had it
I'm gonna wear them
twice,
3 weeks before
got it
you.
the third
You're gonna go,
time. Yeah.
where'd you get those from? And it's like 2007 or
Seven.
2016.
Yeah.
So I do definitely, I would agree with you that I like where it's going. Hey, the end of last year, whether you needed um uh you needed the Legend 11s, or you needed Black Cement 3, which many people needed another one because your 2018
It's a
already
great
got
shoe.
bust up, or you needed, even like one of the most underrated one was the white and black Jordan 14 that came out. That was kind of the start November, and people went crazy over that one. But that's like one of the most underrated shoes that slipped under the radar. And once people bought it, people went, oh, whoa, 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 wait, can I get it? No, it's gone. It's gone. They just have done
Yeah.
the right thing and to pull some of these drops back that it's not available. And if it's sold out, then you got to move on to the next one, or you got to go to the resale market. So it's put some life back into the resale market because I gave what's called Sneakernomics 101. When you shift the law of supply and demand, and you increase the demand because you shrank the supply, that now helps build energy not only for that launch, but the next launch and the next launch, because now you realize you didn't get one. You thought you were going to get, and you didn't get it. So now you're reprioritizing what's happening, and now you really need to get that. But so does someone else because they didn't get that launch. And now it builds a cycle and energy And people are so excited about this band one, and their hearts got
Man.
crushed when they were told it was in 23 stores. And I know one person in my entire sneaker circle that got it on launch day. I know people bought it resale because they had to have it. And it's like, dude, you have
Yeah.
2016. You don't need that one. But so many people wanted that, thought you're going to line up for it and you would get it. And it was nowhere to be found. The stores that got in Toronto, no disrespect, but they backdoored the pairs and they never saw the sales floor. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the band one was interesting, and I agree with you. I think the sneaker community is driven by supply and demand. It heavily is, and I think social media has only amplified that to the nth degree. Um, and even working the stores for how many years, most of the customers' first question is like, "Did it sell out?"
Yeah.
I mean, everybody cared about if anybody else liked it, and not if they liked it. But to go back to the point you made about, it's just so fun to see people get these Jordans for the first time.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I you mentioned the white and black 14, and I think that is such an underdog shoe. But when I saw the people that came out for that white and black retro 14, it was like, these are my people. Those sneakerheads came from out of the woodwork. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
OGs and stuff, because that younger group of kids had no idea what that
Right
sneaker
over their
was.
head.
And like you said, they didn't care about it or know about it until it sold out from the OGs that came and said, "Oh, you know what I mean? I have to have this," and that's what created the hype. But yeah, it's definitely excited and exciting to see people get um, these amazing sneakers back. You know what I mean? In their collections.
So you mentioned previously, we were talking about, just some of the hoop sneakers that come out. But, if you look at it from a different lens, there's a lot of sneakers that have come out from other brands that have really kind of built the basketball world beyond just Nike and Jordan. Like, hey, we know we have Luka, Zion, and we have Jason Tatum on the Jordan side. Obviously there's lots of athletes, Booker, as you already mentioned, KD, and then then you start to go into other brands. You mentioned AE, you mentioned Mellow Ball with Puma. So how much do you gravitate, or how much do you involve yourself into other brands other than, say, Nike and Jordan when it comes to hoop shoes?
I'm always interested. The best example I have is I think the Kyrie one, or I don't know what he calls it.
I think Kai One Speed
Amazing.
is what it called.
Kai one speed or something. I didn't buy this shoe, but I bought it for the young girls that play basketball. But I thought that shoe was amazing. I thought it looked great. I thought it felt great. I would absolutely hoop in that shoe. So I think it depends on the player for me, I
Yeah.
guess, and the interest in it. Drawn to Kyrie, I think he's one of the greatest point guards of all time, and love the Kyrie when he was with Nike too. But yeah, so I think the athlete definitely speaks to me. I'm a sucker for marketing, but I'm also a sucker for performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's gotta perform. Like, it might look awesome, but if I can't hoop in it and make a cut, or you know what I mean, if it doesn't respond on the basketball court, it's gonna get tomatoes from me. And you know what I mean? Like, it's gotta be, when we're talking basketball shoes, it's gotta be the whole
Yeah.
package. And I think we could go down the line of Jordan sneakers and go tit for tat on which ones you can hoop on and which ones you
Yeah. I'd
can't.
start at
But
the 14, and
uh,
then everything else can kind of fall in line after that.
top notch, right? The
Yeah.
14. I was just talking to Rich at seminar last week. He had a pair on, and I was talking about how underrated on the court that sneaker was. Um, but yeah, so hoop shoes to me, it's gotta look good, but more importantly, it definitely has to feel good. So um, just about performance, and I think that's where my letdown comes in with the Jordan brand right now. Like, the the Zion just doesn't feel
No.
great. Like, it doesn't really look good, but it definitely doesn't feel great. I think Tatum is an attractive shoe. Not a big fan of the player, so that doesn't match
Nope.
for me.
Definitely
Uh,
does not. Particularly after what happened last year, you're not a fan. And I'll tell you, I tried on Tatum one. He lost me. I played in it, thought it was a good shoe, and after the second wear, it all loosened up. There's no way to pull it tight again. It's like I'm done. I'm they cannot get me back in another pair to try and compare. It was over.
Yeah, not at all. So I'm not really sure who's in charge of Nike basketball design right now, but I would suggest to revisit that position because I think, you know, I mean, there's some great athletes there. I mean, Luca, come
Yeah,
on. His shoe does nothing. It doesn't, you know what I mean? He's such a big impact to young kids and a popular player, but Jordan Brand is not doing him justice. So I would like to see, you know what I mean, maybe a new designer or some restructuring of that, you know what I mean, line. But yeah, it's sad to say when a customer comes in and is asking about the best basketball shoes out there right now, and Jordan's not even in the
yeah.
conversation.
But I think this is what we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. You know, you've already mentioned since we've been talking. You've mentioned Cheryl Swoops. You've mentioned Sabrina Ionescu. So and now we have Asia Wilson Swoop. And you've mentioned Stewie. Like the door is opening that these women's shoes that will cross over into the men's sector will be some of the best performance shoes that's out there. This is why if you look at Nike as a whole, including Jordan, we're wearing Kobe 5s and Kobe 6s as the number 1 and number 2 shoes on court. Why? Because they haven't made anything better than that. And guess what? The closest thing to a Kobe 5 or a Kobe 6 is the Sabrina 1 and the Sabrina 2. So look what
Yeah.
they've created. They haven't deviated much further than what with Sabrina. But all of these other shoes outside the Booker, because I think the Booker is maybe the most underrated one. And for the guy that plays wing, I think KD 16. I've not tried the 18 on, but the 17 is good. But I think overall, they are just missing the boat. Like they had a shoe special makeup they had for Wemby. Poor Wemby, he's got blood clots and he can't play right now. But they had a shoe and the traction is garbage. You can't play in that.
Yeah.
Like it's like, how am I supposed to cut in this? It's a $200 basketball shoe, and I feel like I will trip over my feet in trying to stop. And this is the top of the line thing that they have available. So they are missing the boat big time, and they are leaving room for the AEs and the mellow balls of the world. And we didn't even mention the rest of Adidas because
Yeah.
between
Right.
Lillard
Yeah.
and the Harden, new Harden is maybe a top 3 basketball shoe that people don't even talk about. Put it on, and it's actually really good. I don't know if you like it
Yeah.
aesthetically, and that's what I can't get over, but functionally, it's one of the best. And I would then also put the Kai One Speed in that category. Like traction wise, outside, you could compare it probably to the Curry because the Curry has one of some of the best traction that's out there. It is the most lockdown, stop on a dime. But you think of the player; they built a shoe exactly how that player plays, and we talk about it being cushioned but responsive at the same time, and be able to literally you're almost walking sideways or on an angle when you're cutting. They
Yeah.
made a home run with that shoe, and I have advocated. There's already a podcast that I've already done on the Kai One Speed. It is the best hoop shoe on the planet right now. If you've never tried it, you can't knock it. Like me personally, I would love to own 2 or 3 pairs of this and play in it because I tried it on and I was like, what is this? This shoe is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I immediately had to do a podcast all about it. So,
Agreed. I like it as well, and I think they did an amazing job.
okay. So, as we transition to a couple other things, we can't talk sneakers without talking about the month of March, and it's Air Max month. So, let me just ask the question: where does Air Max fall into your love of sneakers?
Second to hoop
Okay.
shoes for sure. I love the Air Max line. To name my favorite Air Max would be very hard. It would change probably with the months. Like I said earlier, my favorite sneaker is typically the one I bought last week. So I just I think Air Max is so cool, and it just got kind of goes hand in hand with Nike being elite.
Yeah.
Like I think looking back at Nike is they just kept dropping a better sneaker, or you know what I mean, reinventing themselves. I mean, from the 90s, the 95s and 97s and stuff like that, it was just like hanging on the edge of your seat all the time, like, oh, what's
Yeah.
next? You know what I mean? Like you just thought like, you know, this was the epitome of Nike sneakers. They can't do anything cooler than this. And then, you know what I mean, the next thing would come out. So um it's been kind of dry, or you know what I mean, for the
There
last
has
few
been no
years. And
innovation, and sorry, DN is not
yeah,
it.
and I feel like I've been doing nothing but beating Nike up here tonight, but I believe it'll come back around. I don't know if this Nike DN8 is the next thing. I'm trying not to be an old person and not adapting to new crazy looks and futuristic styles, but I think Nike Air Max is the fundamental or the foundation of sneaker
Mhm.
culture, off of the court.
So let's play a game. Like this is Saw. Let's
All
play a game. So I'm going to give you two
right.
shoes, two silhouettes. You choose which one you like better. Air
All
Max
right.
1 or Air Max 90?
One, without a
Okay.
doubt. The
Air
Air Max
Max
One. Oh, sorry,
97
Gary, go
or Air
fast.
Max 95?
95. 97s are on my negative Nancy list. That's
Why?
probably the one I don't like. I don't like the fit.
Okay.
I think it's too narrow. I think it's not as comfortable as people make it out to be. And there was just way too much. I'm kind of the anti-hype. There was just way too much hype around that 97 for too long that I had to go against the grain and march to the beat of my own drum. But yeah, 97s were never really it for
It
me.
is the most overrated Air Max there is.
See, I knew
Well,
we
we're
thought
like
the
two peas in
same.
the pod right now.
Never mind.
I'm feeling your vibe. Like literally slander the 97 on this podcast, and you feeling totally comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
You good by me. Okay, so we're gonna go with two underrated ones: Air Max 98 and Air Max 96. Which one you got?
I'll go with the
Okay.
eights. That's a really tough call. I really like both, but I'll go with the eights because I feel like they're a little bit of an
Okay.
underdog.
So the last one we'll do is Air Max up tempo 95, so like the one that just retroed, versus Air Max more up tempo. So many people call them the Pippins.
I'm going with the
Oh,
Pippin. That's a very
that
tough one as well.
you
But
lost me. We
yeah,
were
I
so
knew it.
close, and now we are not so close anymore. The Air
That
Max,
Pippin's got
the
a
Air Max up
soft
tempo
spot in my heart.
95 is maybe the greatest shoe in the history of Nike basketball.
You know, you make a good point, and I don't discredit it whatsoever. I cried and begged and clawed and I did everything under the sun. I saw that Pippin on TV, and that sneaker, like I don't know what just spoke to me,
Yeah.
and I wanted it so bad growing up and could never have it. Like I never had the 95s either, to be honest with you, but that Pippin, man, like, oh, I still bother my mother about that.
Yeah, I do remember that because I was in my very early 20s, and I saw the black one, and it's like, that ain't it. Like, I don't know about this air written on the side, but I tried it on and I liked the fit. And I remember going to Walden Galleria. Probably Caitlin worked there at that time as a part-time. And I went in and I walked the mall, and it was in the middle of summer, and I laid my eyes on the all white version. So it had the air, but it didn't have the air. And I say, I'm buying this. And I wore it, and I literally got stopped for a matter of for months on end. What the hell do you have on your feet? Why is yours not? Why can't I see the air? But I know what shoe you have on. That's not the shoe that everybody else is wearing.
That's
It's like, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I'm doing me. You can do the white one, the black and white one. I'm doing this. And people were like, that ain't right that you have this. Is where'd you get it? It's like, you can get it on eBay if you wanted to, but I got it at Walden Gallery. I went there. I was love at first sight. Like that was the second up tempo that I ever loved. The Air Max 90, the Air Max 95, the one that just came out, the white, black, and teal. And I have the shoe in like 6 colors. I have more of those than
okay.
the more up tempo. So that tells you where I stand when it comes to
Yeah.
those two shoes. I have a love affair with that 95 up tempo because it originally was worn by Miles Simon and Mike Bibby. They went to the University of Arizona. They wore it in the Final Four when they won. Then Kevin Garnett wore it. And then Kobe Bryant wore it before he signed with Adidas. And actually, he probably wore it again when he became a free agent before he got his own shoe with Nike. So there's been these moments that this happened. That's why there was a white and yellow and purple one. I want to tell you, like
Okay.
2017, because Kobe wore it. So
I didn't remember. I
that
definitely don't
this is the
remember Kobe
history of this
getting
shoe, and why I think it is incredible. It fits so well, and it's hard to get on, but once it's on, it's like the AE. Once it's on, it's like magical.
you're in
But
there.
you
Yeah,
gotta
no,
put some work in to get it on.
it's definitely a symbol of sneakers
Yeah,
in the '90s for
it
sure. Yeah.
100% is. It 100% is. So that was kind of fun just to hear you talk about that. So before we kind of transition to the last topic, which we're going to talk a little hoops, because we talked about hoops has been the, as we said, red thread that's kind of gone through this whole thing. I'm very curious to know, what does your family feel about your love affair with sneakers? I know how mine feel. My
Oh,
wife thinks I'm crazy. My brother just leaves me alone. My other brother, he's just accepted it. It is what it is. He's been receiving packages for a very long time for me over the history of his life. He just knows, put it aside. He's going to come and pick it up. And then my wife thinks I'm crazy. And my mom and my dad, before they passed away, thought I was absolutely, it's like, why are you working at a sneaker store? Why do you need all these shoes? Why do your shoes not even fit in your closet? Why are your shoes now in front of your bed, on your bed? You sleep around your shoes. Why do you need a storage unit for your shoes? Like, this is the conversation I've lived with for almost 30 years of my entire life. So I'd love to hear your perspective on what your family thinks about your sneakers.
well, they're somewhat of a similar story. Is I think they're okay with it now. I think, but I wouldn't say it was shunned, but it was definitely something I kept to a limited secret through college because I knew I needed to ask my parents for money. And if they knew I was spending the amount of money I was spending or any of my money on sneakers, I knew I wasn't going to get any help from them. So, um, they we I didn't get a lot of sneakers growing up, so I try to blame my parents for this problem now. And so I said, "You kept them from me, and you've created a monster." So
I can feel you
uh,
on that.
I was the yeah, I was the kid that got to shop at Payless for my school
Mm-hmm.
shoes, and you know what I mean. I genuinely didn't even get to step foot in a Champs or a Foot Locker until I was on, you know what I mean, varsity basketball, and then you know what I mean. I got my one good pair of basketball shoes for the year, and like maybe one pair of school shoes. So very limited growing up, and then when I got to college, I couldn't really ask for a lot of extra money, but I started donating plasma to get sneaker money.
Now I've heard it all.
Yeah, so I don't know if you are familiar with this at all, but you could donate plasma twice a week, and you got a stipend. And I can't remember the totals, but it was like $60 for your first donation of the week, and then you got like 120 for the second one. So being a college athlete and not really working a lot, you know what I mean, I had to find a way to buy sneakers. And So I started donating plasma for sneakers, and that's where the collection grew. But every time my mom and dad used to come and visit me at school, I would have to move all my sneakers into my roommate's room, or, you know what I mean, hide them of some sort. So I would say I'm a closeted sneaker collector for most of my, you know what I mean, time growing up. But they obviously know the magnitude of it now. And because sneakers have created such a great career for
Yeah.
me, I think they're a little bit more
Yeah.
understanding.
You have to stay up with the
And
times,
now,
and there's now because you've been at it for a while. There's a nostalgia piece that goes along with it. So
yeah, and more importantly, I don't have to ask them for money
yeah,
anymore.
you're
So
just
they, you
doing
know, they know.
you're whether you're not going to retire at all because you're just going to live with your sneakers like the old cat lady who used to be the old sneaker lady, but you got to do what you got
Yeah,
to do.
yeah. So they're approving of it now, and I've got the sneaker obsession. My sister has purses.
Oh well,
My, you know what I
you're
mean.
you're good
Everyone in
then.
my family's kind of got their own
Yeah,
thing, so we kind of leave each other alone from that
got it.
perspective.
Okay, okay. So hey, as we transition to hoops, like you mentioned you played varsity, you played basketball. Like, so what was that experience like? Did you play all 4 years?
I did. Basketball has been my life. It still is my life. Since man, I think I started playing organized basketball in third grade. They had in-house teams, and it was just the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And it still is. So playing basketball, I got super serious, like all day, every day, carry the ball to class around ninth grade. So ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th was all day, everyday basketball. And I thought I was going to be in the WNBA, and I had all aspirations of being D1 and every dream to play for Pat Summit and go to Tennessee and, you know what I mean, just live that story. And obviously that didn't happen. So I did play 4 years of college. I went to, right out of high school, I went to a community college because I wasn't getting the looks or the offers that I thought I
Hmm.
deserved. And I thought I could, you know what I mean, use that time to build myself up and, you know what I mean, maybe get somewhere on a D2 or a D3 or a D1 level. But I got to college, and I found boys, alcohol, parties, and you know what I
Oh, it
mean,
happens.
all of
It
those things
happens.
that come with college.
You definitely wouldn't be the
Yeah.
only one.
And yeah, so um, basketball didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. However, I did end up playing 3 more years at the University of Wisconsin Superior. So it was a Division III school. In northern Wisconsin, not too far from home. But I played 4 years, and then I did the fifth year. I was a student assistant coach,
Hmm.
so technically 5 years involved in the college basketball program, and still have aspirations to continue that and get into youth basketball somewhere and coach or just be a part of the game. But it lives in me every day for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and I played 1 year college here in our university here in Toronto. I played for Windsor, and I just hated university. By the time I got to the end of it, I hated it. 400 people in a class. It was like robotic, like, and I
Hmm.
really realized that I needed a level of guardrails. I had no guardrails. It was our first time. I lived in a very strict house. It was like it was clockwork. You let me loose, and I did stuff like that. That's just the reality. I did stuff,
Man, that's
and I
what
thought
college
I
is
thought I could
about.
balance it, and I think there were times that I could, but there were times that I could not. And I really had to come to the realization that the best thing for me is go home, go to school, college, change like the learning setting, but like I have to get a piece of paper. Like I want to study business. It's just I'm not retaining it. I'm not applying it in any capacity. So I went to like community college back at home. I was working, tried to get this Foot Locker job, didn't get the job 7 times, got it on the eighth after my friend got the job. I was so mad. But then I picked up football again at that point and started to play junior football. A couple of my friends that were in college with me played. Like I was the best of the bunch. Um, We all played different position, but I ended up being like an all-star. I ended up playing like semi-pro football um, at one point, and then kind of Foot Locker and end of school kind of came to a head as I graduated from school. Foot Locker was offering me a full-time job, and it's like I kind of looked and it's like, do I think I can make the CFL? Like, I'm smart enough, I'm strong enough, but I'm not fast enough, and I don't think I'm gonna get to the spot that I'm fast and quick enough. So it was like I could try, but no one's paying me right now. This is all for free. So let's see if I go to Foot Locker and ultimately work there for 6 months full time. Where do I end up? And my life changed, and I never look back. And I know for where I stand today, I made the right decision, and I still play touch. I still play flag. Winnie will play football in middle school as some of her older friends play, and uh, if she wants to listen, I will coach the living daylights out of her like I coach her in basketball right now. So I look forward to it. Like that, the fact that I can pass that on because she sees how excited I get, and when I watch football on Sundays, and even when when she comes to watch me play touch at my age, it's like every game is a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So as we talk now about just college sports in general, I want to preface this for everyone listening. Men's college basketball right now is absolutely boring outside Duke. If you want to talk about Cooper Flag, sure. But all of the excitement in basketball today is in women's basketball. It's been like, if you've been living under a rock, it's been like this for 3+ years now. So here we are, the plane has landed. And to our surprise, we can talk about all the good teams. You can talk about Notre Dame. You can talk about South Carolina. You can talk about USC and the team that they have, led by Juju Watkins. And then obviously you got to talk about your girl Paige and UConn, because they held it down on Monday and won the Big East. So the unique thing with women's basketball right now, it's they're the best team, but it is so wide open, and there's probably about 8 or 9 teams that could win this tournament if things fall into place. So, what is your perspective of the women's tournament coming, and who do you see as a couple teams that could be playing for the championship when it's all said and done?
Man, you said it so well. I couldn't be more proud or more excited about women's basketball than I am right now. I would like to say we've been here for years. Y'all are welcome that you're all, you know what I mean? Those of you that are just joining the excitement. Women's basketball has been great for a long time. I think that we're just now getting the recognition from kind of a perfect storm. And, part of it is the men's game and the lack of excitement there. I think fans had to look elsewhere, you know what I mean, to get good basketball again, and um so who do I think is a contender? Gosh, it could be anybody on any different day. I think the field is wide open. And that's what again leads to it being somewhat of an exciting thing to watch. Is every team kind of has their own story, and it's you know what I mean, you can find a reason to like any certain team. But my favorites, and it's really hard to say, is UConn
That was hard to
and
say.
Paige.
Oh,
It
you got
is
to be
because I
kidding
grew
me!
up.
I've been waiting for you to say UConn since we started this conversation.
Hear me out. I grew up a Tennessee fan, man. Like I had
Okay, all
dreams
right,
of playing
okay.
for Pat
I will give
Summit,
you this
and
now. I know where you're
our
going with this.
yeah, man. Like she's probably rolling over in her grave, hearing me say UConn, anything, But so I have become a UConn fan through reading and listening to Gino's podcast and getting to know him beyond the jerk that I thought he
Mm-hmm.
was, and so much respect for him. Like I love his thought process. I would die to play for him. I love the program he puts together, and the girls that he produces are. I mean, I feel like he's written the story of the WNBA right now.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Between Diana
yeah,
Taurasi and Sue Bird, and oh
man,
yeah, you know, Brianna Stewart won 4 titles and didn't lose a game in 3 years and won 3 most
yeah, come
valuable
on,
players. Like the team has been
we owe the
stacked
man
for years,
a lot.
and they're always in the
Yeah,
conversation. What did they go like 4 years without losing a game and won 4 straight titles at least? So that like
insane.
yeah, it's so easy to say that you don't want to cheer for them.
Yeah, it was easy to hate them for a
Totally,
long
but go
time.
back beyond
Yeah.
them, then you could have hated Tennessee because Tennessee always won.
Oh, hey, now. Be careful what you're talking about. Yeah. No, definitely. It was an absolute dynasty. And yeah, you either liked one or the other. You couldn't have been both. But definitely the respect. Paige, being a Minnesota girl, I'm a ride or die. I think I'm going to root for her to take it home. I loved her decision to stay.
It was the best thing
I
for her.
think Man, I think in what that spoke for the game itself and for young girls. And I think it just adds to the reason why the women's game is so awesome. Yeah, there's the portal and some players are moving around and things, but it's nowhere like the men's one and done and focused on individuals. I think there's still that nostalgia of building a program and players like Caitlin that stay 4 years and Paige, and it gives that fan base a chance to fall in love with these players and build, you know what I
Yep.
mean, that commitment. So I think that was a major move for her, and I hope it pays off. But on the flip of the coin, man, that Juju is the truth.
Juju's
Like,
my girl.
goodness
Juju is
gracious,
like honestly,
goodness
Juju
gracious,
is like
the total
the
package.
Juju is the
Oh my goodness,
greatest college player I've seen in recent memory because she plays both ends of the floor. Like Caitlin is a
man.
better scorer, like I think because of the range and just at will being able to make shots and just like demoralize your team. But Juju gets like 3 blocks in games, like like without even
She's
blinking.
huge. Like in my like I relate her to like
Yeah,
LeBron. You know what I mean? Like she's just like a freak of
she's a
nature,
guard at
total
6'3",
athletic.
can that can shoot over you and get
Yeah, like
past you and can rebound, and then all of a sudden she can swat your shot if you're not careful. And she like
man.
just
And
victimizes because she's
let's
fast enough. She just destroys people on the defensive end that are 5'10", 5'9", that are trying to guard her. Like you're now trying to guard her with your very best player. So guess what? She's smart enough that she will find the mismatch,
uh,
and someone will also have a size mismatch or advantage over someone else. That's why she's so great.
the IQ is crazy. She's got the killer instinct, man. Like she is something else. Like how exciting! Like so quickly on Caitlin's heels. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like in the next breaking the records and stuff. So by no means is the college game taking a step off. By no means is the WNBA slowing down. Like it is just this ridiculous pipeline of, you know what I mean, the next best player that you didn't even think, you know what I mean, was out there. So
100%. Like you look at, and I just kind of looked at, like, where does this stand? Like, I don't know if all of these teams can win, but I think at least 7 of the top 8 teams can probably win the tournament. So UCLA, because they beat USC after USC beat them twice, UCLA can definitely win. South Carolina can definitely win. UConn can definitely win. USC can 100% win. If you haven't watched Texas, Texas is really good. Texas can win. I question whether TCU can win, but you know what? I think one of the great stories of the entire college basketball season is
okay.
the reemergence of Haley Van Lith. After what happened with
Oh,
her in playing at LSU last year, she played terrible. She couldn't score. She couldn't make any good decisions. She looked overwhelmed. to now go and transfer from LSU, which may have been the wrong thing. I thought it was the wrong. Stay another year, adapt to the system. You play for a great coach that will help you develop into a point guard that may translate to the next level. She's small, but she can score no different than Kelsey Plum. No different in terms of a very similar skill set, although that Haley Van Lith is smaller. But the fact that she transferred, went to another program, was the woman on campus, and now was the tournament MVP. They made the tournament. They're number 6 in the nation. Like, I don't think I would have ever guessed in my wildest dreams, despite how talented she is, that this would be how things end up.
Yeah. I didn't see it either, and I won't lie. I wasn't thrilled at her moving around. It gave me the KD vibes
Yes,
of
it
team
did.
up and looking for a championship. And yeah, I was definitely a naysayer, but I give her all the kudos because we talk a lot about mental strength and you know what I mean, and all the hate and negativity she took
Yep.
going there, and to, you know what I mean, overcome that and then perform and deliver on the court. Hey, I'll take another success story
Yep.
for her, and
100%.
more power to her.
And then we got
So
7.
yeah, I definitely saw her. She's looking
Yeah. At
nice.
7, then we have Duke, led by Canada's Toby Fournier. If you haven't watched her,
There you
she
go.
is
She's solid.
unreal for a freshman. She's not Juju, but she is her own player, and she again plays both ends of the court. She's scoring like 16, 8 with 2 blocks in a game. She has this incredible wingspan. She defends and makes everything difficult. And she just, I don't know if they even run any plays for her. She is just all over the place and
Natural.
just
Yeah.
and she's a freshman. Lawson's going to have her for 3 more years. So we're going to be talking about her in year 4, barring any injury, being a top 3, if not the number 1 pick when we roll this out. 2028, it will probably be when her graduating year is. So pretty amazing to see. And then, hey, Notre Dame lost their conference game, but Notre Dame is really good too, and they're 8. So that's 7 teams for sure that can win. And if things go right, TCU only lost 3 games, and TCU could probably win 2.
It's gonna be wild.
And that's why I'm so excited, because it's going to be wild.
Like, I don't know how many brackets I'm gonna have to fill out, but it definitely won't be just one.
Yeah. So, and I think for the fans, it's like, oh, why do these guys like talking so much about women's basketball? For perspective, if you don't know, the betting odds right now on the men's side is Duke or the field. That's all you want to talk about because they have Cooper Flag.
Yeah, I genuinely not a clue. Like, I couldn't name anybody other than Cooper Flag. I don't. Yeah, and I usually, you know what I mean, I don't normally follow it super close, but I could, you know what I mean, I would at least have an idea who's a favorite, and I genuinely have no idea other than Duke.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm in the same boat, because I will have to now, when the tournament comes to fill out a bracket, I will have to go and research. But the difference is I've kind of been riding the women's game the whole season. Like, I have a feeling on each team on Saturday night or Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. Like, I'm seeing parts of the game and I'm seeing those highlights of these ladies play. So I have a good feeling on the players and the teams and how they could match up without doing any research. I have the eye test. And I think that's one of the things that the team that upsets a team that shoots all the threes, or they're really long, that you wait to see how they match up in the tournament, you don't know. You're reading like the caption of someone's projection. I have the eye test with these other teams so get the teams that I just talked about in the Elite 8, and then God knows what happens. Because I thought USC had UCLA's number cold, and then they didn't win the tournament. After winning the regular season, sweeping the regular season, they didn't win the tournament. So now what? Juju's not going to win the whole thing? That's who I want to win.
I've always said it's hard to beat a team
Yeah,
3 times.
it's
So
super
I knew
tough to
that
do
was
that.
going to be an interesting one. But I'm glad they got that loss out before the big
Yep,
show.
yep.
So if it happens again, the favor is back on
You
Juju, I
got it.
think.
You got it. So hey, let's switch gears in as we wrap up. Let's just talk a little bit about the W. Obviously, as I'm wearing my Toronto Tempo hat, so things continue to evolve, and Toronto has a team. For those that don't know, I've probably said it a half dozen times on this podcast, but the news that we saw in Atlanta literally knocked me out of my chair. That Serena Williams is now part of the ownership team, which is absolutely massive. And I don't think people really understand the magnitude and the eyes this is now going to put on Toronto and this team. That, yeah, they're going to be in a league. And, we just named some of the players, whether it's, in a few years it will be Juju, but we'll have, Paige entering the league. It'll be her second year when Caitlin will be in like her third or fourth season, whatever it is. So will Angel Reese. And then you have Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum and Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. Like, there is just so many amazing players already in the league, and now Toronto, regardless of who they end up with, hey, maybe Juju is ready to leave in Toronto, and I can be Team Juju from jump, but we're going to end up with someone and be bad, and we're going to end up with someone again. So who knows what it looks like, but the fact that Toronto is now part of this league and, as, North America's fourth biggest city, and then to have, of all places that, that we could have Serena Williams decide to buy a team. She could have bought a part of, Golden State Valkyrie. That could have been a thing, whether they didn't want her or whatever. But she chose to be part of Toronto, and that speaks volumes of what it means about the city, about what this will do for this franchise that is not really affiliated with MLSE. We have like one of the people of MLSE decide to just do it on his own, versus getting all of MLSE in behind that. Essentially they own the Raptors and they own the Toronto Maple Leafs. So this is huge. And what it will do for this franchise in having Serena Williams, arguably the greatest woman athlete in this era, as part of this franchise will be unbelievable. What it will do for this franchise is, I'm just so excited of what is to come. We got to draft a team next year, and we got to watch all this year and say, well, that person could be on our team. And I know what we'll see is that we'll see, once people's contracts expire, because the WNBA is in a very unique situation where they're at the end of a collective bargaining agreement. People are signing 1-year deals because they expect the salary cap to go way up because the TV deal will change. It will say a lot about, who will Toronto throw money at as they try to start to build their franchise. We've seen what the Fever have done in the offseason in acquiring players and really building essentially a championship contending roster. They'll now be in the conversation. I don't think they have the best team, but they'll now be in the
Yeah.
conversation when everything is all said and done.
Yeah, oh man, I'm a little jealous. A little jealous about you getting the tempo, and Nashville was in the
Mm-hmm.
talks, but I couldn't be happier about the tempo and Serena. You're right. Like what she brings to the table is huge, and the attention it's going to bring um, is more than exciting. On that same note, but just the excitement around Serena coming to Tempo. I don't know if you saw it today. I think it was today, but Steph has invested in
Yep.
Unrivaled.
That's
And you know what I mean?
huge.
And another huge thing, and the support that's going to bring. And yeah, just a lot of people with eyes on it. And I think people are recognizing that it's something you want to get your foot in the door in now because it's only going to grow. And exciting that it's expanding because there's there's a lot of great women's players in college, and there's not enough
Yep.
teams for them, you know what I mean, to get into the WNBA. So the expansion, I think, is going to again, only encourage growth. And so many more women's college players are going to see a future
Yeah.
beyond college again. And now more jobs and more opportunities between not just more WNBA teams, but now unrivaled in the United States and a lot of other things to make that extra paycheck. So super
Yeah.
exciting.
Unrivaled
And Serena has
was
definitely put
literally a
a good foot.
godsend from the league. So, between Nafisa and Brianna Stewart creating essentially a league outside the WNBA that women didn't have to travel to Europe. And I don't know, I think in many regards, this was spawned by many people went to Russia to play. But after everything that happened in some of the activities that ultimately led to one of the biggest players, essentially maybe the biggest player in the whole league, going to jail and being stuck behind bars for months on end, and ultimately having to negotiate a an agreement to get out of jail. I think it really made people think about, what does that now mean to play overseas, and do we really need to? Yeah, the WNBA season is essentially, it's May to almost October now, the way that the season is stretched out to almost 40 games plus playoffs. But do people really need to go overseas? And a lot of people do, because it's the money. But we've now shown
They had to.
how much
They didn't
money
have a
is
choice. Yeah.
available in the US market. Like, maybe the greatest thing that we've seen all season was, if you got a chance to watch it, and again, you can watch it on YouTube, the unrivaled one-on-one tournament was,
It was so
I,
good.
I can't, sometimes I can't even talk about what, like, how good it was to see players like, NBA, are you taking notes that your shitty
Yeah.
All-Star weekend can be awesome, and we don't need to watch a G League guy dunk to make it watchable? That
Man,
one-on-one
they
tournament,
checked
we had the
everything.
best players in the world. We had, like, do you remember that Brianna Stewart got absolutely railroaded? She didn't even score in her
She got
matchup.
shut out.
Nafisa
Yeah.
Collier, and again, I'm a huge Nafisa Collier fan. She plays for Minnesota. She is maybe the best two-way player in the entire league. Dominated that tournament and won. And what did she win? She literally won her WNBA salary in a tournament, 200K, which
Hmm.
she decided to share with the staff of Unrivaled instead of putting in the kitty at home. So there's money to be made in this league, and I think it opens a lot of people's eyes on what's happening. But we don't need to go overseas and potentially end up in jail, like I said, and I didn't give her a name. Brittany Griner is the one that, you know, we literally had a league standing behind a nation. And I think Trump was the president at the time. Get her out of jail, get her sent back, and maybe it was Biden at that time. I'm trying to remember who was in charge at that point, but it was a disaster.
Yeah, and forgive me, we traded her for some type of war prison
Yeah,
or something crazy, didn't we? Like
for
it's
for
just mind-boggling.
marijuana,
But
for all things.
yeah, and I'm glad that you bring that up because yeah, the women like the salaries that WNBA players were getting before, you know what I mean, all this marketing and having their, you know what I mean, brands supplement their pay is
Yeah,
crazy. So, I mean, some of those girls in the WNBA are getting paid less than some of our store managers
yeah.
and stuff. You know what I
When
mean?
you're not in the
The
upper
commitments
tier,
that
so
they
you're
place.
not in
So,
the
yeah,
Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, you're not in that tier, which is like, they're all making like 250K. Like, that's the around the number that it stands today. If you're not in one of those two or three spots, you might make 100 if you're like a starter and borderline all-star, and then everyone is making league minimum. It's crazy
yeah,
how much players
yeah,
are
it is
making that are
crazy.
in this league. Like, more than half the league make the league minimum, which is bonkers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think the Lynx, I think their whole roster is like 1.2 million. The whole roster.
Like, no way.
You know, it's mind boggling. when you really look at it. And so I've always had a hard time when people get upset at the women trying to, you know what I mean, voice the definitely not equal pay, but respectable pay. Like obviously, you know what I mean, the revenue and that of the NBA is definitely different, but they're nowhere even in the same.
Stratosphere.
They're not
Let,
even
let's
in
let
the
like
same.
and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a second here because I had to reply to a tweet today, and I'm sure I have a lot of backlash because I'm a dude and I'm talking about Angel Reese. Angel Reese said, "I'm gonna sit out if we don't get equal pay." So it's like, young Miss Reese, I have all the respect for you in the world. People shit on you because you miss shots and you get rebounds. I ain't gonna talk about your game. Jessie, you are one of them that shit on her, that
I
hate her. So I like Angel Reese. I think she's got her own brand. There's a lot of things that she does pop, but this comment is absolutely ridiculous because the WNBA does
yeah.
not have the revenue of the NBA. You
No.
cannot pay people $60 million like you pay Steph Curry. You can't pay them 20. There
Yeah.
isn't
No.
that kind of money. So there is. I think with the next collective bargaining agreement, and hey, there are, there's the OGs that are out there. There's Cheryl Miller is one of the biggest advocates. These girls need to get paid. So I'm not saying that
Yeah.
these girls should not move into the millions of dollars on how much they make.
No.
It's a shorter season, so I think you have to factor they're playing half of the game of the NBA. I'm not saying anyone needs to make 10. I'm
Mhm.
not even saying anyone makes 5. But the top players should be making at least $1 million, probably 2 or 3. And hey, in '85, the top three
Yeah.
players were, two of them were Jordan and Patrick Ewing. That the $3 million in 1988 was the ceiling of the NBA. I'm not saying that they need to be there, but I'm telling you that to say that there should be equal pay. So we got scrubs in the NBA making 10. We got league minimum at $1 million. The WNBA is not in a position to pay players $1 million to sit on the bench in street clothes.
Yeah.
They're not there. So
Yeah.
will we
I
get
agree.
there?
And
I hope. I would love to see it because I know what exponentially growth that would mean if we're going to pay players, even the best player. If the best player in the league made $10 million, wow, we are going somewhere right now with the WNBA. We probably have 24 teams. We're playing 60 games a year, and things are absolutely wonderful. Now you also got to remember, part of the challenge with expanding the season is they only can play because if they want to play in bigger arenas, they got to share the arena with the NHL and the NBA. So to create a schedule that's going to work, it's hard. This is why
yeah.
they start in May and finish on October before the NBA season starts. So that doesn't allow really a 60 game schedule, which I've already suggested. It really allows for like a 40 game schedule, which they've stretched it to now because the season used to end in August, really the beginning of September. Now it ends in the beginning of October because of the extra game, and that's extra revenue, and hopefully that will carry the league forward. But to say that you're going to have equal play is one of the dumbest comments I've ever heard. And hey, I love Kelsey Plum, and she thinks they should get more and maybe even equal pay. Give your head a shake. Like, there's not at that point
Yeah.
that the revenue and people are standing in behind the league. Hey, Kobe and even LeBron and CP3, those are some of the biggest advocates for the WNBA. But we're not at a point to pay any woman $10 million. And it's not that they shouldn't, not that they're not talented. I will be the biggest advocate. I'm wearing the shirt. I go to the games. I watch it. I have the WNBA app.
Doesn't
I want to see the game grow. But to pay
it
people
doesn't matter.
what they
Yeah.
paid the NBA, we're just not there yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to see the WNBA exist. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we go paying people like that, we're going under. So it just it just doesn't make sense. But it we're not where we need to be. And I mean, I'm happy that it's going in the right direction. And that comes with the fan growth, you know what I mean, the continued exposure and all of that. And you know what I mean, it'll continue
Yeah.
to grow.
So let's talk about, as we wrap up, let's just talk about some of the teams. So you're from Minnesota, but I know you like Sabrina. So who is actually your favorite team in the league?
Oh, it's the
Okay.
Lynx. I'm a hometown fan. I'll embarrassingly admit the Vikings. You know what I mean? The Timberwolves, the Lynx, like the Minnesota Wild. Like my sports are always going to be rooted in Minnesota. I couldn't be happier being a Minnesota fan right now. It's been a long time since we've had something to cheer
Yep.
about. So the fact that we have AE and Nafisa is crazy. I couldn't be happier. Um, the finals were tough.
It was.
I that those were the fun like the funnest 5 games of the year, and I love Sabrina. I love Stewie. Yeah, so it was, you know what I mean, but no doubt in my mind, I was pulling for the Lynx all season, and I think everybody. I don't even think we were on the radar half the season. I kept telling everybody that Minnesota was legit. We're a defensive team. You know what I mean. We're fundamental. It was going to come around. Everybody wanted to talk about the Caitlins and the Angels and the Aces and all that. And yeah, we definitely flew under the radar. And I'm not going to say it, but we are returning a pretty solid team and have every intention of being back there again
Yep.
this year.
Oh, and what I love, I definitely really took appreciation for Minnesota in the finals. They just have a grit factor that I can truly relate to. I'll tell you, one of my favorite players in the league is Kayla McBride because she's like a bulldog.
Mhm.
I love how she
Yes.
plays. She's a great shooter, works her ass off on defense. I will cheer for her to the day that I die. And the game that essentially got Toronto a WNBA franchise. So one of the draws to having that game happen was one of our best players, Bridget Carleton, who's on Minnesota. She was the draw to bring the game to Toronto. Now, hey, it could have been Kia Nurse. Kia Nurse has been all over the map. She wasn't, they went with Minnesota, and I got a chance to watch Kayla McBride in person, and I was like, wow, she is fundamentally like she's just bullying people as the game goes on. She's making us like,
A
are you
bulldog
seeing?
is
Like, I'm
such a
telling
great
my daughter is sitting.
description.
I'm wearing this
Yeah.
very hoodie. It's like, Winnie, are you just seeing this
Yeah.
girl? She every time she touches the ball, a three goes up and it goes in.
Yeah.
I think she made 6 threes that game. We were cheering for Bridget Cartland so much, and she was terrible. She was terrible in that game. She made one layup the whole game, and we all went crazy. She got a chance to speak before the game started. I think she was very nervous to play at home,
Okay.
but she just didn't have it. And the a lot of the other players kind of picked up the slack, and Minnesota did win that game. But that game, it was a sellout in Scotiabank Arena where the Raptors play. It sold out in like half an hour. And then people were
Oh wow.
scalping these tickets an hour later. So like, oh well, hey, Toronto wants a game. Like, well, we'll just see what. And there's people asking, it's like, hey, Lionel, you got any links on tickets? Who do you know that I can get tickets from? I don't want to pay resale. And it's like, I had tickets and I sold them to two young girls could go. And then I had tickets so then myself, my best friend, who's like my sister, and my wife and my daughter. So the four of us went, and we had like the best time. And that game is the reason we have a team in Toronto next year. The WNBA was totally overwhelmed. It's like, what the hell is going on in Toronto? Why do they want basketball? And it was all little young girls that were at the game and people that are truly fans of hoops. This was nothing to do with the Raptors, but you could see that there is a budding culture of basketball in Toronto beyond the Raptors. Hey, Vince Carter, I give him all the credit in the world. He showed us what the NBA could look like in having our first true star player. You can see it. It's sprinkled all over the Olympic team. You ask most of those guys, their favorite player was Vince Carter. The reason they play basketball is because of Vince Carter. But the young girls were inspired by Vince, but they truly wanted their own chance to play essentially at home. And now they can see that it's even possible because we were going to have a franchise and then ownership fell apart. And then one of the guys that was part of the I think it's Larry Tannenbaum that is part of MLSE. He's the chairman. He says, if you guys don't want to come to an agreement that we should have a team, I'm going to use my own money and find my own investors, and I'm going to get a team for Toronto, and that will be the end of it. So that's where we are and why we have a team. So there's been a lot of changes that have happened in the WA that we've seen. So hey, I'm going to touch on three things. Number one, Diana Taurasi retiring. I know you're not a huge fan because she went to UConn and beat your Tennessee Volunteers, but how do you feel about DT retiring? It's almost like the basketball couple, although they're married or they're with other people. It was always Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi because of what happened in UConn, and now they're both retired. Sue Bird very well should get into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame this year, along with Carmelo Anthony and a few others. But how do you feel about DT, who's had 20 years in the WNBA, retire?
Well, I feel like I can finally take a breath. Like, geez, Diana Taurasi can stop beating me. Like, I can finally, the arch nemesis is finally put to rest. Yeah. So, who didn't she beat of mine? She beat my Lynx. She beat the
Yeah.
Gophers. She, you know what I mean? She beat Tennessee. So, yeah, my hate for Diana runs deep, and it's not based on anything but respect, as she is a ridiculous basketball player. The talent is crazy. Um, Man, she changed the game. She genuinely changed the game. She came unapologetically herself. I think if I look back at it, like the personality Diana brought to the game was something different. Like for lack of better words, the bitchiness, that I don't care. I'm gonna throw an elbow. You know what I mean? I'm gonna scream. I'm going to show some
Yeah.
emotion. It's always been there, but I think she just took it to another level. And again, I hate to relate her to the men's game, but she brought an aspect of the men's game into women's basketball, and I think it was not just the baggy shorts and the cool, you know what I mean, swag, but she played with grit. She played with I'm gonna eat you alive and I'm gonna stomp on you when I leave the court. You know what I mean? And
Mamba mentality.
um,
That's why
it
Kobe
was, and
himself called her the White
it was
Mamba
killer.
because he saw himself
Yeah,
in her.
yeah. And it was there, and yeah, it's a end of an
Yeah.
era for sure. Growing up, you know what I mean, watching her, and I watched her change the game. So all with every respect and all love to Diana Taurasi, but I hated her till the day she hung it up.
Oh, and I'm on the other side of the fence. I've loved DT since day one. I've followed her on 6 Olympics, 3 league MVPs, and then 3 championships, 2 finals MVPs, all the accolades in college. Only player to hit 10K, all-time leading scorer. She the GOAT. Like, and I love Maya Moore. There's other players that I really admire, but DT is it.
Yeah,
And that's what, there was all of this smack talk and pushing and shoving, and like people want to still talk about how she treated Caitlin, but she is a competitor, and her game, she was able to back up
yeah.
every inch of smack talk she threw out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the respect
Yeah.
comes from, man. She backed it all up. She delivered in every moment. The
Yeah.
clutch. You know what I mean? Like she came through.
So we definitely had a massive trade that happened involving my favorite player in the WNBA, Kelsey Plum. So now we have a new look.
Yeah.
Um, LA Sparks. I don't think we thought this would happen, but with Kelsey being from LA and now end up back on the West Coast, they just have a whole new look of their team. And I don't know if they're a championship team. I think we're gonna have to really see how things materialize there. But what are your thoughts about what the Sparks have done now in the offseason?
Yeah, a little unknown myself. It's gonna be different seeing Kelsey in a different
Yep.
uniform because I definitely connect her with the aces and that. But also, same as you, like I wish I was as cool as Kelsey Plum. That's who I envision myself as if I were to be an WNBA player. So I'm excited. I'm excited for her. I think it'll tell that hometown story too. I think the fan base will grab onto it
Yeah.
quickly, and you know, what I mean, there's going to be a lot of support there. But yeah, I'm interested to see what it looks like. And that goes to be said about all the WNBA. Man, it's been a
It's
crazy,
been so wild.
crazy, crazy offseason.
To
Like
even see what
I can't even.
what Phoenix did. DT retires. Griner ends up on another team. Where did Griner go? I'm trying to find it here. Yeah,
She,
She ended up on the Atlanta Dream, but then all
yeah,
of a sudden things implode, and now Thomas and Bonner are on different teams. They're married. They're a married couple, and
yeah.
now are on different teams. And Thomas, one of the best players in the entire league, is now on the Mercury on top of Satu Sabale, the better of the players of her family. So throw in Keisha Copier. They have now an amazing big three. All of a sudden, from literally having nothing, like I think like 2 years ago, we had DT and Griner, and we had Diggins on that team, and now the team is totally flipped over,
Oh,
and
they're
now has
all
a
yeah.
totally new identity. So it like we're talking about, many of my friends right now are still talking about the NFL free agency, but don't get me wrong, like what has happened in the WNBA, and it happened like 3 weeks ago, has been absolutely wild. And we talk about um, Thomas now leaving Connecticut. Connecticut was in the finals 2 years ago. The total team is like imploded
Connecticut's been in the
to the
finals a
point
lot.
that Marbury, or what's her first name? Marina Marbury, she's on the team, and now she's filing like a grievance because she asked for a trade and they said no. But they let everybody else go. So like she was part of the starting five. She's the only member left of the starting five that remains. And they didn't really fill in any players. So they'll get something in the
Yeah.
draft. But the reality is
Uh,
she feels like she's totally hung out to dry. How am I in the finals 2 years ago? And now this year, you traded everyone else that's on the team. And I want to trade too, and you will not trade me. It's wild.
Yeah, they've been in the semifinals quite a bit and never
Yeah.
converted. Like they've been knocking on the door forever, and now they completely dismantled. I actually heard rumor that I think Boston or somebody was looking to try and buy them out or move the
I
team.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so very interesting. But I think going into last year, the WNBA, I think it was most people thought it was like a two-way street. It was like you were either an Aces fan or it was New York, and I think the WNBA shook things up so much. You know what I mean? The playing field again is like okay, now there's like 4, 5, 6 teams
Yep.
that could seriously be contenders. So I think the WNBA just got even better. You know what I mean? Where there's no way you can go into it thinking like Oh, it's going to be New York and Minnesota again.
Because
Like,
neither team may
it's
even
not.
get
It could
there.
be.
You know, the
It absolutely could
the
be.
Aces
But yeah,
found ways to
there's
retool. We already talked about, and we didn't really get into the Fever, and we're not going to get into it today. But the Fever are prime to make a run. Then we says like, hey, guess what? Literally, we have the entire same team in Minnesota that was literally a bad call away from winning the championship. There's the defending champions. There's what LA is trying to figure out with their new roster. Phoenix now has a new big three. This thing's wide open, but this is
yeah, it
no,
is.
and the ironic thing is it parallels what is happening in women's college basketball.
NCAA.
That
Yes.
parity is so good for the game. It's just going to bring more. And we didn't even talk about the Sky stink, but people are going to watch it because Angel Reese is on this team. So there is so much parity now in the WNBA. It is great for the game of basketball on the women's side. And they will continue to take a share of the basketball pie. And I'm all for it.
Oh, it's a breath of fresh air. It genuinely is. And I just think it offers us a different look at basketball. And not necessarily a different look, but it's the nostalgia of basketball again. Like the NBA's changed so much, and now NCAA and the portal and men's college basketball has changed a lot, and it's those juggernaut teams of the past aren't there anymore either. So I just it's a perfect storm. I think it's gonna do nothing but elevate the game.
Yep, amazing. So I just looked at the time and wow, where did the time go? We are at the 1 hour and 30-minute mark of an amazing conversation. So Jess, we're going to wrap this up. Please share with everyone that's listening, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or you're going to catch this live on YouTube. Where can they find you? They hear about your sneaker collection, what you're passionate about, your love for the WNBA. Where can people find you on social media if they decide to go down that rabbit hole?
You can find me on Instagram. My tag is JK Matkovich. So JKMATKOVICH. And you could also follow my pup linked on my account, but Miss Kalua is on there. But I would enjoy all the followers on Instagram. I love to talk basketball or sneakers with anybody, but I genuinely appreciate the platform. And I look forward to coming back, man. Let's dig into this WNBA season, and man, we could really split some hairs and go back and forth on some good.
100%. We're gonna have to run it back, and I think the ideal time is we got to go post tournament, post NBA or WNBA draft, and see where the plane is land. I think that's the perfect time before we start a season. And to see where we are, because obviously we've talked about a lot of what's happened in the offseason. We've kind of previewed the tournament, which is going to be better than the men's tournament. Like, there's no two ways about it. The Elite Eight will maybe the greatest Elite Eight we'll ever see in our lifetime. And I'm prefacing that there's a lot of basketball that I've watched, but I don't think I've ever been this excited about an Elite Eight on paper of what it could look like. But I really appreciate your time. I think this has been an amazing conversation, and it literally flew by. Like, I looked at the clock at one point. We were at, how are we doing? 29 minutes. Pretty good. Like, we'll wrap this up in 15 minutes, 45 minutes after the 15 minutes. We're still going, and we could talk half an hour just about the Indiana Fever, but we're not going to go there. Caitlin Clark's going to get her own day in the sun on a different episode, but...
And I'd like to go back to '90s basketball shoes too, because I have a lot of opinions. And
you didn't even mention arguably the best '90s basketball shoe, which is the Reebok Question.
Oh, that is definitely up there. Reebok Question.
That is on the of '90s basketball. That is on the Mount Rushmore of '90s basketball shoes. Maybe we'll have to come back with that question. Mount Rushmore of '90s basketball shoes and go from there.
Much deeper into the sneaker world because I'm very opinionated and I like to take the unpopular opinion as much as possible.
And
So
that's why you'll be welcome, because if you have an unpopular opinion, we need to hear it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jessie, for being on. This was a lot of fun. We now know we have to do it again. But this is Lionel and Jessie, Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. We are out. Thank you so much for listening.
take care. Thank you.